Oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word. Oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Bird is a word. Oh, well, hello, welcome to N equals 2. Today is another N equals 3 podcast. Joining me first off is Andrew DeSolis. Hello, Andrew. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm great. This is actually the second episode that we're recording today, but my third espresso. So let's roll.
Ready to go? Um, Joining me today, who's one of my favorite people in the world. She is the CEO and mama bird of Little Bird Marketing. That is Priscilla McKinney. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be on this brand spanking new podcast. This is so cool. I mean, I started listening to a couple of episodes. I'm like, okay, I already love the name. And then I'm sorry I had to make it N equals 3, but you know what? This is the way this had to roll. And as you know, Brian, Andrew may be heavily caffeinated, but I do not need caffeine. And you do
You don't
not
need
want to
it.
do this show with me on caffeine.
Well, it's a new podcast, and we wanted heavy hitters, and you are at the top of our list clearly, and so we're so thankful to have you on, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about today. I think most people in marketing research at least know who you are, but I think maybe we can start off with a little bit of your background, and before you start talking about your background, we talked about this before the show. You have such an amazing bio. People should go out and just read her various bios that are out there on Amazon or LinkedIn or all the awards she's won. But, she traveled the world singing and matching dresses, giving puppet shows. I don't even know if we should get into that, but I really like the stuff that you did before college. Like, it's really fascinating to me, like your life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm the fifth of five girls, so that's already just insanity going on, right? So, a lot of fights about bathroom time because it was in the 80s and we were all wearing full makeup, dresses, nylons, I mean, all the things that nobody wants to do anymore. So, I've been there, like in terms of the concentric circle of hell of getting dressed for church, I've lived in it, right? So, I don't need to do that anymore. I mean, I'm like, I swear, just from wearing nylons, like in Florida and in southern Spain for most of my life, I feel like God's going to be like, "Oh, you come right up here. You get to the front of the line." So, but yeah, here's one other fun fact I don't always put out there too. I love playing the auto harp. I love it so much. It's never going to be cool, and I just don't care.
What is an auto harp?
Oh my gosh, Andrew.
You know,
I know the answer.
Okay,
in
do you
my
do you,
defense too, I played in a symphony in college, so I do know what I'm talking about, but I've
Okay,
never heard of an
believe
auto
me,
harp.
the auto harp does not show up in the symphony. We're talking about really low brow here, okay? So, do you remember in school, maybe you ever had a moment in like music class, and it's very playable instrument. Like if you want the G chord, you press the button that's a G, and you strum the strings. You want an A, you press A and you strum the string. So all you have to be able to do is strum, and
Yep.
listen, some kids couldn't manage that. So in all fairness, but it's like one of those, it's kind of like the pickleball of instruments, like everybody can play and it only takes about 2 minutes to figure it out. So it's totally enjoyable because, within 2 minutes you can be singing your favorite song and just strumming along. I
That's
told you it's
fantastic.
uncool. It's uncool. It's fine.
No, that's fantastic. I'm gonna have to go YouTube that after.
Yes. Well, I apologize now for what you're about to see.
And I think you're a little humble, Priscilla. I'll read off some of your accomplishments. You're CEO and on the board of a fantastic company that has changed our industry. That's your probably primary day job. You also have your own podcast, fantastic podcast. You're an author. Well, I want to talk about that. It's collaboration is a new competition. You can find that on Amazon. I love that. Something I'm extremely jealous. I'm jealous of that, but I'm also jealous that you have the laureate designation through the Insights Association. That is my goal in life is to pay them off somehow and pretend like I'm actually accomplishing a lot just so I can get that designation. And you're all over the place. You're kind of the chairs of different conferences. I see your name and out there everywhere. You're active on LinkedIn. I wanted to make sure we did you justice that you're not just a CEO. You have like 7 other jobs, including you're a fractional CMO of companies as well. I don't know if there's a question there. I just kind of wanted to reel off your resume.
I love it. But you know what? You highlight that one that is the Insights Association laureate. And I got to tell you, I've won a lot of awards over my years, but that one really means something to me because it was unusual for them to give that laureate standing to someone who is not a researcher. And I just felt like, I have given to this industry. I have put my heart and soul into it. I was
Mm.
asked to speak at an Insights conference back in 2016 and got introduced to market research, even though my degree is in cultural anthropology. I mean, in college, in my first job, I did IDIs, and I'm bilingual, so I did them in Spanish with some women in the LA, basin. So it's not that I don't know what market research is that it was not my job.
Mhm.
And so then I was asked to speak on marketing to a market research group. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you guys are all out here? That's so interesting. I forgot about this job. And since then, I've been just rocking and rolling in the market research world. And I will give a big shout out to Kristen Luck, an amazing pioneer in this field. But she was, get this, the first person I met in market research.
Oh my gosh, what a gift that was.
Yeah.
Like you look at it's like hindsight. You're like, if you could meet one
Yeah,
person in the market research industry, who would it be? I'll take
that's winning
Kristen
the
Luck. Thank you.
lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I searched far and wide, and you mentioned Kristen Luck and other significant relationships for you. Jane in Brazil, who was on the podcast recently, another one of my favorite people in the world. Lisa Walding Brown, I spoke to her yesterday. Her career path has been fantastic following. So you're pretty well connected, for
Yeah,
sure.
well, Jamin is a strategist for me still currently, but we're also amazing friends. I talked to him on Friday. Well, actually, I talked to him on Monday. But it's funny, I talked to Lisa yesterday too. So she's busy. She talked to you and to me and still did her CEO job over at Innovate in Mars. So she is absolutely a baller. And it just goes to show you, this success that I've had is very predicated on just wonderful people who have come around me and been supportive of me. I'm an executive sponsor of Women in Research, and I know you've been huge about supporting that over the years too. But it is, yeah, you can work so hard. I can be good at what I'm doing, but if you don't have a fantastic posse, I'm sorry, you're not getting very far.
Absolutely, Elizabeth, your book, but really quick, I'm gonna just throw a teaser out there. I was banned from Wire for a little while, but that's a whole separate.
Oh
I
my
could get
God,
into
come on my
transcript before.
podcast. Let's talk about that only.
We can talk about that since you're on the
Okay.
board. I would love to talk about it. Yeah, you mentioned people, and I completely agree. This industry is very small. You have to network and get to know the right people, and that kind of gets me to your book, which is collaboration is the new competition. And you can find that on Amazon again. And I'd love to hear more about your book.
Well, this actually was something I'd been trying to work on for a while, which is funny because, as you know, I write a lot of content for this industry. I day in and day out, I'm an editor. I write tons of thought leadership for other people. I scribe blogs from interviews I do of clients, and we just get so much content out. But I was struggling to get my book written. But it really comes from this idea that people would ask me all the time. And in fact, I remember a very specific conversation I had with Sarah Kotfa talking about people you should know in the industry
Yep.
over at Fieldwork. And, she asked me this question like, well, Priscilla, you came in 2016, and in like 2 years, you accomplished more networking than I've done in my entire life. In this industry. And I say this not to downplay her. She's amazing, but she was not awake and alive to really what is possible with this networking. And she was like, how did you do that? And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it kind of gave me a little bit of a different tack to take for, completing my book. And it gave me this motivation of saying, I do some of these things intuitively. Maybe it's the way I was raised, reference 5 kids living overseas. I've lived in like 32 houses or something like that. I went to high school in 4 different high schools in 3 different countries. I'm just like, adapting, and I'm very good at that connecting, right? And so she was like, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh, well, isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious what you do next? And she's like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so
skill. It's
it,
just who
it
you
is.
are.
It is. It's who you are.
Yeah.
So, but it forced me to kind of break it down and say, if I want to be truly helpful to people,
Yeah.
then I can go and break it down, not in a rear view mirror like I'm so important and let me tell you this crazy, story that is revisionist history. Oh, I'm so successful and here's why, and I've never missed a step. I have a lot of embarrassing stories along the way. You've mentioned a few of them with my matching dresses and puppet show intrigue. But even in market research, I've failed at different points. But there is something that I am doing that just intuitively made sense to me. And so I began to break it down into a framework that other people could crib.
I haven't read your book yet, but I'm going to order it now. I should have ordered it, and that's really embarrassing that I haven't even read this book yet. I'm not a big book reader.
Okay, I have such good news for you.
Okay.
Today, my book got uploaded to Audible.
I
Now,
noticed.
Today.
Now today. Now it may be. I haven't gone out and checked. It takes sometimes up to 10 days for them to do a final approval and see it out. So I haven't looked.
What was
But
there? 15 points.
okay, there you go. So that was this morning that was loaded. So good news. That's good news for you, Brian. You don't like to read. There you go. You can listen to it. Also, Jason Talwar has been begging me. He's like, when are you going to do the Audible? Because I don't read books. And so, Jason, today's your day.
Did you read the book, Priscilla, or
I
is there?
did. I did. I took the.
I
I
love
really.
that.
I'm such a big Audible fan. I'm a voracious reader. Obviously, I have two podcasts, Brian. I have one that's outside of market research,
Right.
but I consume so many podcasts. I host two of them, and I love it when my favorite author reads their own book. So I'm like, hell no, I'm going to spend the time and do it. And it was really enjoyable. I did catch 4 typos, so that's good. So now I wouldn't fix those. I guess I thought I had read the book, but I missed those 4. But anyway,
If I ever sat down and wrote a book and then did the audio, I would go off script.
you
Did you have the urge to
can't.
go off script?
You can't. You're not allowed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Got to go write another damn book if you were going to go off script.
I bet you had to cut a lot from the book. There's probably lots of stories that you didn't have a place to put them, but
Yeah. There's a good culling process, and actually, I turned down a different publisher because they wanted me to make the book twice as long, and I'm like,
oh,
no, I'm done. And also, I don't think that's kind to people. When you're done saying the important thing that you had to say, just be done with the book. Like, do me a favor. I hate those like extra 8 chapters for some filler dumb reason. And I
yeah.
have to say, I've gotten a lot of, feedback on Amazon, and a lot of it's been very positive. I'm very grateful. But there was one that was like a 4-star, and he said, well, these were the parts that I felt were kind of filler. And I'm like, let me read that. That's so important. The feedback, I really enjoyed. I don't know. I didn't know the person. It was just somebody who found my book, and I read through that review, and it was so helpful. I mean, I love that people are behind me and supportive and give me a great review. But this guy really gave me specific things where he thought, oh, this one is where she kind of loses, and just to him, it was like, oh, that doesn't really apply to me. Well, that's good. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it was really good insight. He's like, man, these chapters, I just felt like it just went rocket ship off. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. That was really nice feedback.
Yes, it's cool when you hear that something that you're not sure if resonates actually resonates and you get feedback on it. That's awesome. I'd like to talk more about really your career in marketing research. As I said earlier, I feel like you are one of the people that changed our industry the most. I've told you this before. Our industry was horrible at marketing. Ugly PowerPoints, ugly websites, didn't know how to position things. And maybe, I don't know if you deserve all the credit. You deserve some of the credit for helping us out and making us look prettier and cooler. So first of all, thank you for that. And my first question is really, you've been a big part of Insights Marketing Day for years, and Brian Peterson is still a friend of mine. He raves about Insights Marketing Day, and he cannot stop talking about it. I'm sure he will be there. Is that soon?
Yeah, it's coming in October, so it's really easy to remember, 10/10 of 24. It's in Chicago. We have an absolutely beautiful room, and it is a bespoke conference, meaning our max is 125 people, and we don't go over that. And you really spend the day learning from top of the funnel to bottom of the funnel. Like we have somebody speaking at every, rung. And it is also a really interesting panel that we have of tools of the trade. A lot of times people are asked to do marketing and they may be a team of one or a team of eight, whatever it is, but it is hard to get the marketing done and keep up with what is going on in marketing. It is just very hard. It's hard for me running a, 17, 18 person company here, you have to be doing the work, being in alignment with the strategy, and you need to be keeping up with every piece of technology that ever was. And in digital marketing strategies that lead to revenue, there really is no margin of error. So this day is designed to say, look, I know you're busy. Come for one day. We are going to just power pack it. You are going to learn top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. I guarantee you, wherever you're at, we're going to meet you somewhere in there. We're going to give you tools of the trade. There's going to be lots of authors there signing their books and giving them away. And that includes me, that includes Rob Biesenbach, that includes Andy Crestadina. I mean, if you want to learn something about web and SEO, just listen to this guy. And Jeffrey Hazlett is going to open us up in a keynote, the past CEO of Kodak. So he really is working on something called C-Suite Network, and it's about like really being networked at a level that matters, for executives and marketing executives.
That's fantastic. Again, rave reviews every year for that. So try to get your slot. Only 125 people. I like that you do that, by the way. Once you get above that mark, it starts getting a little hard to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, and we all share information with each other. We all give everybody's LinkedIn address, like make connections. It's not just about the speakers. We're not, more special than you are. You can make a significant connection with someone in the audience who might be able to push your career forward, push your company strategies forward. And we really, really encourage that. There's actual networking activities that go on during it as well. And then, this year we have HubSpot speaking. Actually, I failed to mention that one, but obviously, as a platinum HubSpot shop, that's really important for us. But we don't bleed orange in that sense. Like our clients sometimes use something else, and we're really here to make sure we're doing the right thing by the client. But of course, people kind of, bring us a little bit synonymous with HubSpot because we believe in it and we do know it like the back of our hand. But it is such a powerful tool. And there's going to be some ability to like pick and choose and say, hey, I'd like to see this demo. I'd like to see this one. But at the actual event, it's really going to be about them. It's not about the speakers. It's about how can we help you right now get to the next step.
Sounds amazing. I want to change directions a little bit, and this is my favorite segment, and Andrew is really good at leading this segment. We're asking all of our guests this question. It's really, is marketing research at a crossroads? And I'll let Andrew, he asks it a little bit differently than I do.
Sure. So yeah, we're asking all of our N equals 3 guests whether or not marketing research is at a crossroads. And I'm especially excited to ask you this question because I think your perspective will be quite different. Most of the folks who we've well, I guess it's been 2, but I feel like all we're talking about is AI. All we're talking about is AI and data and technology and oh my gosh, the big scary evolution of technology is coming for our industry. But like Brian said, even in just the last, since I started in this industry, right around the time that you came into the industry as well, we've seen a huge shift in it was almost like it was an entire space of introverts, right? And then now we're seeing everyone's posting on LinkedIn, people have podcasts, people are creating personal brands, companies have more vibrant brands, where it used to be kind of you had to be this, we're kind of this stuffy, analytically rigorous, and if we're not boring statisticians, then you can't trust the quality of our research, right? I don't know if you want to answer the question from that perspective. You can answer the question, is marketing research at a crossroads, from whatever perspective you want. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of the branding trajectory of the space as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me come at it from this direction. First of all, market research is incredibly valuable, right? Data is okay, we can't even do business without data. But I do think from my outsider perspective, I don't feel that there's always been a good representation from the researchers themselves of that value. And so, what I mean by that is either they have been too shy and not really been as bold about what it is they're providing, how important the insights are, or they have not been able to translate that powerful message and the reality of it, that truth, into business sense. So let me unpack that, kind of two sides of it. Here there's the key stakeholders at the table. Often the researcher does not have an executive title, right? And so they are coming to visit at the executive table. And I feel a lot of times when they've done that, because they are social beings, they are very curious people, they are very empathetic people, that has then worked against them. They've been maybe too shy, they've been maybe too, well, maybe this, maybe that. They've been very service oriented. And I think business on the executive side is boldness and moving and what's the data and what are we going to do and why and prove it to me. And, and because of that, I think there's been a little bit of fallout, a little bit of damaging of the industry because the value has not been successfully communicated. Now, of course, I'm painting with a very, broad brush here. The second thing is that if they are bold and they do know what it is, sometimes they are not talking the right language. And it makes me think of, the story, The Little Prince. He talks about like how there was a Turkish astronomer who a long time ago discovered this planet, but nobody listened to him because he was in, Turkish, traditional costume, and nobody believed that he knew what he was talking about. And it's this whole like cultural reference, the same people judge upon, first glance. And so I think sometimes when researchers have shown up to business to give their answers, to give the value, to give the truth, sometimes the way they have shown up has detracted from what has been heard. And so I think it's that same case. And what I would say specifically about that is I think if we are at a crossroads, it's one where anybody with real financial literacy, people who truly understand digital marketing and what it takes to bring that data and those insights into a really solid revenue generating plan. Anybody who can really represent properly that value that data and research holds to business, and they can make that business sense of it, those people are going to win. And I have seen big winners and big losers in it. And I do think, I'm sure it's not the only reason, but I do see a crux and a crossroads around that issue.
I have a quick follow up. Incredible perspective, first of all. Um, Traditionally, a researcher, whoever the head of research is, rolled into marketing. And if we got a seat at the table, it was exactly how you described. I feel like, especially with more data, more information, more insights, that there should be a seat at the table for a researcher. I don't know if that's chief research officer or whatever it is, but they also have to work together with marketing because marketing is managing all these KPIs and all this other data. How do you feel about that?
Well, okay, so I could go kind of pretty far away from it or get really close. I
Yeah.
think that is true. I think it's about two different people who really probably have the same goals, and yet they are looking at different dashboards. That's a problem. Right? So you talk about, as soon as you say marketing, you say KPIs, but as soon as you talk with researchers, you talk about insights. Wait. Aren't KPIs insights? Like, aren't insights KPI? Like, there is, of course, some differentiation there, but they're not coming together. And so in a lot of ways, like the problems I deal with as a CEO and then also as a fractional CMO is I'm trying to shorten the distance between sales and marketing. That's a huge trouble place, right? So that's my world. Bring these together. Why are these separate? I don't understand. Like, this is a mess. This cannot, if you want revenue growth, these cannot be separated. Well, if you want data-driven revenue growth, you cannot separate the researcher from the marketer, in my opinion. That needs to be someone's job to bring that together, get the same dashboard, be in the same meetings, have the same conversation, be at the same fucking water cooler. Right? It's like the message as I walk by you. These have to be people who know each other's cell phone numbers, but they may see each other one time a year at the corporate strategy retreat. That's not going to work. right? And so to me, that's where those problems are, is about bringing people closer together and without these massive silos of their job descriptions. And I'll take it, like I was saying, that to me is the close-up problem. The larger problem from outside is I see it show up. You mentioned that, about how I teach social influence and I teach B2B people how to become social influencers. And the first part of that is personal brand building. And some people poo poo that and be like, well, I'm not a Kardashian. I don't need to do that. I have a real job. I'm a professional, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. You do, because you do have a personal brand. You don't create one. You already have one. It's been assigned to you based on your lack of doing anything else. So people believe either you don't care or you're not visible or what. Believe me, that's a personal brand, right? So everybody has one. The question is yours good or not? And the way that this ties in to bringing people together is that if I can't tell you what I am famous for, what I am good at, where my skills lie, then you will never come ask me. And so when people get digitally transformed on teams and get awake and alive to their own personal brands, they make it a calling card. They make it easy to tell everybody on the team what they can be asked, how they can help. And so people think, oh, well, personal branding is very selfish. And it's like, no, it's me being nice to you, right? I'm telling you what to call me for. I'm telling you what I'm good at. I'm telling you where I'm reliable. And so this is, in my opinion, very important. That's how we break those silos down. And so, while it seems like personal branding is way out there or digital transformation of your team on social is something that is a nice to have, to me, it is absolutely essential if we're to bring these teams together and really bring data to the forefront of importance so that everybody is understanding it to make a decision.
I would say I wholeheartedly agree. And you were a big part of helping me build my own personal brand. And a lot of it is just kind of confidence and understanding in who you are and just kind of embracing it. This is who I am, and I need to embrace the quirks of my personality. And I'm very thankful that we sat down at a couch at a conference once and little random conversations here and there off the cuff at the end of another meeting. And little conversations like that probably influenced my career as much as all the hardcore professional development training that I've gone through and all the offsite stuff. Little advice like that can go so much further.
Listen, the fact that I know that your dog's name is Bonnie actually goes a long way for me being able to call you up and ask you a favor about something in market research space.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's just not weird anymore. Like I know something about you. Now, do I want to know everything about you? No, Brian, I've got other friends. That's fine. We're good. But people kind of take that to the nth degree. It doesn't mean I'm going to start vacationing with Brian.
Right.
It means we are so affable. I know what to call him for. Like, and he's a person to me in my Rolodex, not a page, And this is happening wide scale. Why people say, why are you so successful in networking in the industry? Because I make these things personal. And in order to make them personal, you've got to start doing people some favors. And then I'm like, what we kind of come back to what you were asking, Andrew, what is it that Crossroads on the team bring all of that problem of people are not networking within the industry because nobody knows what they're should be famous for. And you bring that all the way back within own companies. I teach cohorts how to be digitally transformed on LinkedIn. They are not even connected to their own coworkers on LinkedIn. Bam. How do you think you're going to work together?
Right. Right.
We only have a couple minutes left. Unfortunately, we can't keep Priscilla here all day. Andrew, you have any insightful questions for Priscilla before we have to say goodbye? Final thoughts?
I feel like the obvious one is to just sort of ask, if someone wants to get started with their personal brand, what would be the next step? But we should all go listen to the Audible book or buy a copy of the actual book to answer that question. So more pointedly, as researchers who need to make different connections and portray ourselves in different ways at this crossroads to increase the value of insights within and across our organizations.
Mm-hmm.
If you could wave a magic wand and every researcher would start doing something today to shift the perception of our industry, what would that be?
I think they should network enough to get outside of the research industry. I think there's too
Mm.
much like ABC, like I'm going to connect, like it only makes sense. I'm going to connect with you because that makes sense. It makes too much sense because like, oh, this person would buy from me. Like salespeople make this mistake all the time. They keep trying to network and they'll say to me, I'll like, well, I can make an introduction to so and so. Oh, no, they don't buy what we have. Okay, that's so dumb and short-sighted, you know, but because I tell people like really building your influence and building your personal brand, you don't sell to your network, you sell through your network. Okay, so you need to build up your network. Well, that's one thing I think about numbers and salespeople do that wrong, but I think researchers get it wrong in that they keep staying inside of research. And I'm telling you, this is like kind of comes back to my idea of they need to be financially literate. They need to understand the bigger business world. They need to listen to podcasts they don't understand. I listen to podcasts I don't understand, and then I might listen to 3, 4, 5 episodes, and then I start getting their jargon and I start understanding where they're coming from. And I am telling you, the cross pollination of ideas from a different industry into your own, some industries are further along. They're more digitally transformed. They have different ideas. They've solved problems differently. And if you are awake and alive to it, you will start seeing ways that you have learned something, that you could bring over to your world. So for example, I'm just going to make something up off the top of my head. Okay. So I love going to museums. Okay. So maybe I go to a museum and I see this cool, like interactive, like sign, I think about like crazy. I love looking at crazy modern art and installations. Right. So I'm looking at an installation and I'm like, wow, I feel like this or whatever. And then I think, you know what? Why don't people feel like this at one of my clients' booths at a trade show? What could I do? What are they doing in this museum installation space that is eliciting a visceral reaction for me? Can we do that over there? Right? So this is like not a direct, connect, but people are like, well, I only go do the things that are research related. Well, that's a very boring life. And we will never advance this industry if we all just keep feeding ourselves with the same industry. You've got to get out. You've got to go see how other conferences are done. You need to make friends in other industries, and I think the most successful people are ones where the 5 or 10 people around them have nothing to do with research, right? And it's not about necessarily just having a variety. It's about cross-pollination of ideas. And that's one of the really important parts I talk about with collaboration, because everybody who has a stake in a goal or in a project needs to be included, not just the researchers.
That's outstanding and a great way to end the podcast. I will say I've been a little bit forced to do what you're saying. I work in government, and so I find that I get stories out of this kind of collaboration. I work with a fire department, for example. I have good stories. I can kind of have metaphors for what we do in lots of different areas of life. And to me, that's one of the most important things. I can relate it to something else in my life. Priscilla, thank you so much for joining. I know you
Oh
have
my
to go.
gosh.
I love you so much. The industry loves you. Go out and buy our book. Collaboration is a new competition found on Amazon. And again, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll see you soon. Go to Insights Marketing Day too.
Yes,
10/10.
insightsmarketingday.com. Really easy to go get a ticket. And, and there's still, I think, 2 sponsorships available. So if anybody wants to come sponsor it and get known there, that would be awesome. But it is a fantastic, it's hard to explain to people just how awesome of a day. Then once they come, they're like, why have I not been going to this,
Exactly.
to this event? It's really great. But Andrew, Brian, just all the success to you. I love seeing a new podcast crop up. So you've been added to my list.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Priscilla, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Well, everybody's heard about the bird. The bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner. Well, the bird, bird, bird. Bird is